Evening. Good evening. I'm going to give a couple seconds for people to get on. But just so you know, just as I was gearing up to start, there are sirens going on for the first time today in central Israel, which means like the Tel Aviv area and like Tel Aviv, Jaffa. It looks like just really concentrated on the coast there. Rishon LeZion, I see Givatayim, all these places. Anyway, here more or less. But anyway, we have so much to talk about today. And now I'm actually thinking, oh, wow, are we going to get an alert? We haven't had one all day. So what usually happens is that I see like I haven't noticed a very huge pattern like among the Iranian missiles, but I have noticed that at night sometimes it'll go like Tel Aviv, South Jerusalem, or not necessarily in that order, but that will all get the sirens or the alerts at that time. And then of course the north has to be thrown in, but the north was certainly not left out today. And what's more, there is actually today and in the last couple of days, but specifically also today, there were 5 or 6 Iranian missiles specifically targeted toward the south of Israel. And I wonder if they have found a target there that they're going after. And, of course, we know that in the city of Dimona is Israel's nuclear research center. So it could be that that is specifically what they're looking at. But in any case, that it was like just in a couple of hours, there were 5 or 6 alerts for the South. Now there was no injuries and not a lot of damage like in all of these, which was like really miraculous. But hey, Callie, I'm glad you're here. Callie, I missed you today by minutes. And because I basically spent the rest of my day driving and picking up and this, that, whatever, I never got a chance to text you. And all day I was like, hey, Callie, I just missed you. Anyway, like I knew you were going to meet Jen. So, and I had to leave because I had to leave to pick up Daniel. And I was almost going to be late for that. So anyway, so I've got one eye on the TV because, like I said, just an alert right now with a launch at central Israel, which means that there could be one here. Also, we might hear an interception. We'll see what happens. But okay, so there's so much news today. I don't even know where to begin. It's like when you begin a story, do you want to begin with the most dramatic, or do you want to begin with or build up to the drama? But, what do I do? There's also follow up from yesterday. I talked a lot about the cardinal that the Latin patriarch who wanted to get into the Church of the Holy Sepulchre and was refused. And it was like just an international diplomatic nightmare that he was not able to get in. But okay, Callie heard the booms. I hear like some kind of, I don't know, activity, whether it's planes or
No, we usually feel
slight
shaking.
booms right
You
there.
feel shaking too
Yeah, but
sometimes.
this time it wasn't that strong, but it was something. Okay. So, and hello to Carol, which means probably hello to John as well. Thank you guys for joining. So, do you guys want me to start with the most dramatic, or do you want me to start with Trump? I mean, Trump is dramatic, if nothing else. That is for sure. I have to find his quotes here. Let's see.
Which goes bing bong bing bong bong bing. That quote.
What are you talking about?
Remember that quote that he was he was talking and then he was saying things like, "Oh, we got a bing bang bong bang."
Oh my God, no, I don't remember that. I don't remember that.
Oh my God, there was a whole Jimmy found a whole clip about it.
Oh, that's okay. That all right.
I mean, that is just
Yes,
so
yes,
hilarious.
yes. I do remember that. Okay. All right. And then also, oh my gosh, and Emily is here too, and also on YouTube. That's awesome. Listen, especially you guys on YouTube, if you would do me a solid and hit the like button, it will help go far and wide. It definitely would help my channel. So I'd appreciate that. But okay, so I'm going to start with Trump because again, I woke up this morning to some quotes where he was like, "Yeah, we're having great discussions with the Iranians. We're going to make a deal, or maybe we won't make a deal." And that was like in the same sentence. And then after that, he said, they are agreeing to the 15 points that they like most of them, the 15 points. And of course the Iranians are like, no, we have, no interest in your points whatsoever. um what is he doing?
Let me see. Like,
It's like he's giving it away, giving them away.
He's giving his whole family away.
Oh my gosh. Wow, there's a guy who's fed up with the war. He just held up a sign, for giveaway, not even for sale. A wife and 3 kids and a Jeep. What?
Jeep and a house.
And the Jeep in a house. Wow, maybe he's just leaving the country. And hello to Deva and hello to Kim. Hey guys, thank you for joining. Okay, so Trump. Let us read Trump's statement today that he posted on some social media. The United States of America is in serious discussions with a all caps, new and more reasonable regime to end our military operations in Iran. Great progress has been made. If for any reason a deal is not shortly reached, which it probably will be, and if the Hormuz Strait is not immediately open for business, we will conclude our lovely stay in Iran by blowing up and completely obliterating all their electric generating plants, oil wells, and Karg Island, and possibly all desalinization plants, which we have purposely not yet touched. This will be retribution for our many soldiers and others that Iran has butchered and killed over the regime's 47-year reign of terror. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. So, all in one statement, he said the talks are going great, but if you don't, we are going after you. And he said in interviews with somebody, he was like, yeah, we might make a deal or we won't. We might invade Karg Island or maybe we won't. And I mean, I was like, oh my gosh. But again, I'm starting to get it. It's just don't bother to try to get it. Like, don't bother. Just, let them go, let them talk, and watch what happens, because actions speak louder than words, and the words are all over the place. In one sentence, we're close to making a deal, or we're not. We're going to invade Karg Island, or we won't. And you're just spinning. And I am sure that perhaps the Iranians are spinning now. I but I have not confirmed that he might be speaking with I think the head of the parliament now, or is he the new leader? Wow, I can't keep up with the positions, but Khalibaf is the name, and he's like the new de facto leader, absent of Mushtaba. And oh, guys, hey, I forgot. I can do this. I can totally do this. I am going to show wow, it's like I got to multitask even here. So Callie heard the booms. Now we're waiting to see if there's another launch. And hello to Carol and John. Hello to Emily. And Kim asked for the drama. And actually, Kim, once I said that, I was like, I don't know. Actually, It's all drama. I think it's all drama. So I'm just gonna go down the list for now. Dava, good to see you watching from Oklahoma. And Holly from South Carolina. Oh, thankful I found you. Well, thank you very much. That's awesome. And Davis says Trump loves to keep people guessing. And I think that is a huge part of his strategy right now. I mean, it's the best I can guess. And hi to Cindy. And Cindy says hi to everybody. And now her comment's going to stay there because I'm going to go on the other screen and see what else I have going. I have a lot of stuff. Okay. So I'm going to tell you some. You guys came here for the war, but I'm going to keep you hanging on the war because there is a lot of other news. So while we were not sleeping, because while we were preoccupied with this war, there has been a lot of stuff going on. And I'm going to talk about some internal politics. So, they just passed the death penalty.
It passed?
Oh my gosh. Wow. Guys, breaking news. So this is part of it. So Israel is kind of going into politics as I want to say politics as usual. And they had to pass a budget. They also are passing laws. So while all of this war is going on, which is quite apocalyptic and very dramatic, there's stuff. I don't want to call it behind the scenes because it's not like anybody's hiding anything, but the Knesset had to pass a budget and they did it. They did it in the wee hours of the morning. And I awoke to the news that people are incensed because there is this huge chunk of money. I think it's 800 billion shekels. Can you fact check me? For ultra Orthodox schools. So the ultra Orthodox that are not serving in the army, that are learning in yeshivas and getting child stipends rather than working, they are now getting an $800 billion allotment for their schools. And it was in, you know what, I might even have it up. Let me see.
Wait, what's this budget?
Here, I have it. 800 million. 800 million shekels for Haredi schools. So what happened was, in some sort of parliamentary maneuver, and again, in the wee hours of Monday morning, it was like they had been up all through the night, and they passed the budget, but they somehow tricked the opposition to vote on a series of reservations. And included in that was a $255 million reservation to ultra Orthodox programs, including these yeshivas. Now, that's absolutely nothing that the opposition parties would vote for. And there was even the the Bank of Israel governor said today, I don't care how you pass things, I care what you pass and how it's going to impact things. And he said the economy is already right now going to be challenged because of the war and, the 2 years of war plus now this war. And anyway, he was extremely unhappy about that. Okay, so another thing that they are passing right now, apparently they just passed it, is the death penalty for West Bank Palestinians convicted of terrorism. Now, this is interesting because we are going to talk about another type of terrorism, which is Jewish terrorism, which has been happening rampantly. In fact, it's become, even in the midst of this, it's now just this week really been put into the international spotlight because it involves an international media crew. Let me see if the article is up yet, though, about this, because this literally just broke. The Knesset votes 62 to 48 to pass a controversial law mandating the death penalty for West Bank Palestinians convicted of terrorism. The vote is a major victory for far-right National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir's Otzma Yehudit party, which means Jewish power, which has long lobbied for the measure. Netanyahu also voted for the bill. And Ben-Gvir said in a statement, "This is a day of justice for the victims and a day of deterrence for our enemies. No more revolving door for terrorists, but a clear decision. Whoever chooses terrorism chooses death." Okay, so let me see if there is. So one opposition party, a right-wing opposition party, also voted for it. It was the Israel Beitenu, which is Avigdor Lieberman. The ultra-Orthodox parties voted for it, and I don't see yet any comments from the opposition. So anyway, this will obviously continue to unfold. A separate provision allows courts to impose the death penalty on anyone, including Israeli citizens. It applies only to those who intentionally cause the death of a person with the aim of denying the existence of the state of Israel, a definition that in practice excludes Jewish terrorists. Okay, so this is going to be very controversial. Okay, but I will move on to now the other controversial story. I'm going to just share with you a little bit of how all this unfolded in the West Bank when CNN went to cover let me pause this for a second. That's Jeremy Diamond from CNN. CNN went to cover an illegal outpost that had been that had popped up. That there are these. I don't like to use the word settlers because it gets misused, but let's say that there are Israelis that go to the places in the West Bank and they settle these illegal outposts with the intention of opening more, giving more land to Israel without having like a final status negotiation on the land there for because it's internationally disputed and et cetera, et cetera. So they will go and do that because they are like ideologically called to it. But since the war began, this war with Iran especially, and even before with the war with Hamas and Gaza, the violence that has been going on in the West Bank has escalated, and it has not been covered very well by all of the media. It's been covered by anti-Israel media in some cases, very pro-Palestinian media to show what's happening, but it should be covered by all. Because by the way, if you do follow like some very right-wing pro-Israel influencers who pose as journalists, you will not get this news. But this has become national and international news. So I also just want to acknowledge, by the way, Lovella has popped up. Good to see you again. And also Michael Kloin. Oh my gosh, good to see you. Awesome. So I am going to put this back to the beginning and let you see just a couple minutes of this video. This is the CNN crew from last week, and they're filming live as they are getting confronted. Now they went to, I think it's called Taysir, is a Palestinian village where this settlement popped up, and they went to cover that story. So let's take a look.
Producer Abir Salman identifies us as journalists before translating the soldiers' commands.
Sit down, sit down, sit down.
So the soldiers just immediately came up and started pointing their weapons directly at us, telling everyone to sit down immediately. Obviously, we're not posing.
The commander comes straight for our camera, and within seconds, a soldier has just put photojournalist Cyril Theophilus in a chokehold, forcing him to the ground.
Don't touch him like that. Don't touch him.
Okay, now I'm going to stop it because I have a fear of copyright infringement, and I don't know if I can show this on my channel because it's CNN. I mean, you can watch it on Twitter. Now, I will, because I did get a copyright infringement once because when the hostage negotiation too were happening and the hostages were being released, the only media that was airing it was Al Jazeera. And so, I was like watching it on YouTube and I'm like, oh, let me share the feed. And no, apparently you should not do that. Okay, guys. I apologize. It's my daughter calling, of course. Hold on. There you go, Tony. Let me. Okay, I'm back. You gotta love it. Okay,
Mom's doing the right.
So-
Whatever you need, message me. Bye.
they're all out. Like you would never know there's a war going on. Like everybody's just wandering around. I mean, you can't keep them. It's been 31 days and they're at home. Okay, so I'll tell you what happened. So the story goes on that they then confront and speak with the soldiers, and one of the soldiers says several things. Wait, I've got notes. You've got my phone. No, but I have it here. I have it on my computer. So I'll all right. So they went specifically to this village because they, not just because of the illegal settlement, but they heard that there were clashes, violent clashes, and that some of the Palestinians ended up in the hospital. Now, the Jewish settlers say that was because an 18-year-old was killed before, and they said it was a terror attack. And so anyway, it's just the cycle of violence. So it keeps going around. So the press crew shows up, and you see the soldiers come out with their machine guns raised at them, pointed at them, even though they're clearly labeled press. So they keep filming, and you can see that, and then you hear that they put the photojournalist that was with them in a chokehold. They demanded that he turn off the camera. They damaged equipment. They wanted to see their phones. They had their passports. They questioned them, but CNN was there to cover the story that these settlers took that hilltop and then went into the nearby Palestinian homes. This is according to witnesses that CNN had, not me. That they went and beat up Palestinians in their home, including a 70-year-old man who was hospitalized. Then what they do though is they take over the land. These outposts that they create is a taking over of the land, which is maybe undecided or maybe the land of the Palestinians. They use it to, whether they're growing crops or olive trees, or they're grazing their flocks there. But in this case, it really hit a nerve and made the international spotlight because it was CNN. And these soldiers really don't, I would say it's almost like probably the police officer that stopped the cardinal from going into the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. It's like the low-ranking soldier doesn't realize the international furor that he's going to create. Not that it justifies the fact that if he was going to do it to the Palestinians, but he had a conversation, and you should watch it, because it was, they had their phones going and it was taped. And he said, well, this was our friend that, that was killed. And so what would you do if it was your friend? And, the reporter's like, but you're a soldier, you're supposed to uphold the law. And he said, this isn't lawful it's international law that you're even here. You shouldn't be here anyway. And he said, no, but one day it will be. And because he said, these guys, like the settlers, are the ones breaking the law. You should go after them. And he said, but one day it will be. I mean, more or less, like that's what he said. And it's like his ideology was the same. Now, in response to this, Israel took an unprecedented decision to suspend that entire brigade. It's called Netzer Yehuda. They were built as an ultra-Orthodox brigade to be like to kind of get the ultra Orthodox to want to serve in the army. And so they had, it started with that, but it's become more so also the very nationalistic, like segment, like also like these, what do you call it? The like the settler movement. So the hilltop youth and etc. So these are two huge international diplomatic incidents 2 days in a row. Now, the CNN reporter was basically saying it took me going there and my network and my platform to bring attention to this. And the fact that the army did respond by getting rid of well, here, let's read exactly what they said, because I have it right here. I'm sorry. Okay, so they said the findings of the inquiry were presented to the General Chief of Staff following a review. The findings indicate that the soldiers documented in the incident were operating to prevent confrontations. The troops were operating in an area adjacent to the evacuation of an illegal outpost that had been established overnight between Wednesday and Thursday. At the same time, a team of journalists arrived together with several Palestinians. The soldiers operating distinguished between the reporting team and the group of Palestinians and conducted security checks. After the security screening, the team was released, except for one team member who was released after being identified as a journalist. Okay, during the interaction with reporters, one of the soldiers made inappropriate remarks that do not align with IDF values or with the mission of IDF soldiers in the area. The allegation regarding violence used by one of the soldiers will be further examined by the relevant authorities, and further action will be determined in accordance with the findings. Okay, so regarding the claim that an elderly Palestinian man was assaulted prior to the incident, an initial review with all relevant authorities has found no indication that the elderly man was harmed by IDF soldiers. The inquiry found several failures in the conduct of the soldiers toward the reporters. Like, it takes them like 20 paragraphs to get to the part. In addition, deficiencies were identified in behavioral norms, deviation from IDF orders, and inappropriate communication with members of the press, and violation of established procedures. The IDF respects freedom of the press. They regret the incident. It should be emphasized that direct contact was maintained with the reporters, including a personal apology regarding the circumstances. Chief of General Staff determined that this constituted a serious ethical and professional failure, including language and expressions that are unacceptable for IDF soldiers and those in uniform. He further emphasized that the standards of conduct and discipline demonstrated in the incident do not align with IDF values or the standards of that are expected of soldiers. And I think they released the soldier. But anyway, okay, so you guys get the point. So even they took it extremely seriously. And so when the army makes an unprecedented decision like that, then you know that there was something done. So in any case, we'll see where this goes from here, like in the international media, in the Israeli media. By the way, second missile alert, and they're getting sirens right now, more or less the same area, though perhaps a little bit north. So, all right, let's go back to the war. Sorry, I did the insider baseball politics, and feel free to ask questions or throw in some things you want to actually discuss. But I'm going to go back to the war. The missiles reminded me. I was talking today about the several missiles that were launched at southern Israel, and what is there is a nuclear research station. Now, what we have here, so none of those caused any damage, but what did cause damage was a missile to the north. There we go. That is an oil refinery. It's an oil refinery in Haifa. That was actually big, and not for the first time. The Haifa municipality stated there is no risk of hazardous material. So they are using hitting targets. The Iranians are actually hitting targets. And so, and what are, so now let's talk about what's happening with also the US and Israel. They are also hitting targets. Now, I told you yesterday, we talked about the eye for an eye. You hit a steel plant, I'll hit a steel plant. You hit a university, I'll hit a university. So the Israel, I think it was Israel, hit the university in Tehran, some university where they say it has to do probably with the nuclear program, but in any case, that was hit. And so Iran said, in all of the Gulf states and in Israel, all universities are fair game now. So the American university in Beirut evacuated. They went to distance learning. I think a couple of other universities, they all were like, okay, we're closed, and like immediately closed. And their students were moved to distance learning. Now, they're also both going after power stations. Apparently, a lot of Tehran was in a blackout yesterday because Israel, I think it was Israel, went after power stations. It could have been the US, but a lot of what I hear is actually about Israel and not the US. So, okay, now for Lebanon, Israel is looking to expand its military zone, and the fighting is getting very intense in southern Lebanon. In the last couple of days, well, there was an interception right there. In the last couple of days, there were 2 Israeli soldiers were killed. There were also several injuries, and many of them serious. In fact, on a personal note, or not directly personal, but today, my son Daniel had, he had his school, and they called me and they said, when you pick him up, will you also be able to take one of his classmates to the after school program? And I was like, oh, sure. Okay, that's fine. They said his parents are not going to be around. They have to go to visit their other son who was in a hospital in Haifa after having been injured. And apparently they were hit by anti-tank fire. I don't know if it's the same exact incident in which they announced the death of another soldier, but he's badly injured. So, I've got 2 young boys with Down syndrome in the car, and I couldn't tell if they're quiet, my son and his friend, if they were quiet because their speech, or because the younger brother knew and was aware of how serious his brother was injured. So anyway, that was unbelievable. I felt so bad. I mean, you look at this kid and you're just like, wow, I don't know what he knows, how much he knows, if he knows. And anyway, so, okay, so that's what's happening in Lebanon. Lebanon, though, Hezbollah has, it seems like there no dearth of missiles and drones, because the sirens for the northern communities were pretty much like on a roll all day today. So while there was nothing in Jerusalem, there was nothing in Tel Aviv till now, and the south had its like morning batch, but then they were done. It was like all north after that. All right. So also in Lebanon, this was the deadline. Today was the deadline to kick out the Iranian ambassador, and he was like, "I'm staying." So I don't yet know what the end result of that is, and we'll see what happens with that. Also, I'm gonna have to jump around because I don't have all my Lebanon next to each other. As so, Yep. Yep. I'm going through the notes. Egypt, guys, Egypt has decided to have a curfew for the purpose of saving energy. So there's a 9 p.m. curfew. I think it's nationwide. They are trying to reduce the need for energy, for electricity, and to reduce consumption by 30%. They're going to also have government employees work at home. So this is starting, I think it's starting today. Oh no, it's only one day a week that they're going to work, but the what's the 28th? Oh, it's the 30th. Okay, so the measure started on the 28th. So that means businesses, malls, restaurants, everything's closing down at 9 p.m. Apparently across Egypt. But anyway, they are probably more concerned and more aware of the potential food crisis, not just gas price crisis, but food crisis that could result from this war. I would say, like, a lot of people in the West still think it's very distant, but the people here in the region are starting to panic slash be very interested. Let's say be very interested slash panic. Okay. So somebody else, we talked about Zelensky, president of Ukraine. He made the rounds in the Gulf. He made deals. I think he's also trying to sell Ukrainian drone technology to a lot of these countries. But he also talked about, I hope I have it open somewhere. I do, and another thing, and another, I have like 100 windows open. Okay. Let's see. He talked about Russia selling something. Well, I just have to find this. Because the only thing I wrote in my notes was Zelensky, and I didn't write, like, because I was like, oh, I'll remember. You see how that worked out for me? Okay. Russia is giving Iran intel and satellite images of targets for attack. And then he talked about being ready. He gave an interview with an Israeli reporter from Channel 12. So he is on a campaign to bring himself into the good graces of the region. And now this region is probably always from the outset has been like this sort of diversion between, let's say, Russia, Iran, China, etc., and then also, and then, hi Lucas, like the anti-Iran coalition, and Zelensky, because Russia's on that side, is probably trying to get himself now on that side. So he did his Gulf tour, and now he's doing interviews with Israeli media and saying, "Oh, look what Russia's doing, and here's how I can help." So anyway, that I thought was an interesting tidbit. Hi, Marilyn from Iowa. Good to see you. All right. So the speaker, oh, this is what I was talking about before, the speaker of the Iranian parliament, who was in alleged contact with Trump, said that the enemy is openly sending messages of negotiation and dialogue and secretly planning a ground attack. And he continues that they're doing this without knowing that our armed forces are waiting for the Americans to enter, to set them on fire and punish their regional partners. We're going to get to the regional partners because that's actually a big deal. Does he know there's like food? Okay. So now they have set their own conditions, which, President Trump said he has his 15. Now they're saying that their conditions are withdraw all American forces, dismantle their bases, even in West Asia, imposing on an economic system under Iranian sovereignty on shipping traffic in the Strait of Hormuz, a complete cessation of attacks on Iran, Lebanon, and the resistance access. So that means, of course, like Hezbollah and the Houthis. But the Houthis, by the way, they've been quiet. They did that one day of like, here's a couple weapons, we're here, guys, and then they went back. They went dark again. Okay, and anyway, they have it. Why bother read these things? Honestly, okay, so what is this about Kuwait? Iran opens up an attack against a energy station or power station. The largest power station in Kuwait. Okay, so there you go. There's again the they're going eye for eye. Oh wow, I'm really getting random. The Kosovo has agreed to send troops to the Gaza Strip. Like, remember Gaza? Remember when there was going to be like an international solidarity force that went into Gaza to help, like to take over the not governance, the policing of it, and get rid of Hamas and get rid of their weapons. And Kosovo has said that they would send their stuff. Anyway, their soldiers. There's a couple that have sent their soldiers. Okay, so all right, so now let me see. We have a question here from Carol. Why did Jordan stop Arkia from flying through the airport? I don't know if they stated a reason, but they just changed their policies, and I didn't get to the bottom of that. But they just changed their policies, which prevented Arkia from being able to fly. And so then the Israelis were stranded. By the way, speaking of it, it's like the time of the Exodus. And guess what? The Israelis are all going to Egypt. There was like this big line of, because, it's like holiday now for Passover, and they're all like going to Egypt. So anyway, I don't know what the outcome of that is, actually, what's happening with Jordan. Okay, so here's a little summary of the month of the war. Looks like this is one assessment that it could end up being a war of attrition that keeps on going. Nobody knows like what will happen if there actually will be ground troops. Will Pakistan, which has now entered the thick of the action, they're going to be like the host for talks, and where did they come from in this whole thing? The escalation has really deepened the rift in the Persian Gulf. A lot of the Gulf states are very sharply now saying that Iran really has to be weakened, and that things cannot continue after the war as they are now. So then asking, like, will this conflict escalate into a full-scale regional war? So that open Egypt unconditionally. What is this? So that is really going to depend on whether or not, I would say like the next couple of days are really going to be critical to determine whether the war is going to have like a swift ending with a deal, or whether they're going to have to go all out. And I don't know yet what going all out entails. And just to give you a scope, like we're talking today about like a couple of missiles that came this direction. And I would say like, so if it was Iran, like there were 5 or 6 in the south, and then 1 or 2 in the north, and then just 2 today. So like maximum 10, I think. And the UAE Ministry of Defense said today we intercepted 11 ballistic missiles and 27 drones launched from Iran. And since the start of the war, 425 ballistic missiles, 15 cruise missiles, and 1,941 drones. Now that's huge for a small country, and right across from Iran. So that's actually a big deal. That just goes to show you that when you don't feel it where you are, it doesn't mean it's not happening. So especially for you guys who are not in this region, like if you're in the US, if you're in Europe, just because you're not feeling it doesn't mean it's not happening. I have to say the same thing for us because we didn't get one siren today in Jerusalem. So, but it doesn't mean it's not happening. So anyway, All right, I'm flying through the rest of the notes. By the way, this issue of settler violence actually there was a letter written by Jews in the diaspora, Jewish leaders. They sent it to the president of Israel, and um, ex- they were expressing their concern over the recent surge of violence by extremist elements in Judea and Samaria. And Herzog responded to them and said, "I agree, we condemn it, etc." So anyway, we have another question from Carol. Does Israel's budget have to be balanced? I don't know, but we should ask. I should have asked the when they had the Bank of Israel governor on. He was so upset about it. But anyway, I don't know much else about the budget. Like it was passed in the early hours, and I'm still trying to catch up on that. And actually, that would have been like the big news if it weren't for everything else. Actually, it's covering the whole region. You're always missing something, you know. I'm seeing if oh wow, no, I'm not going to be able to read that fast enough. So anyway, that's basically all I got for today. I don't even have a bottle of wine to open today. Well, I'm still working on yesterday's. But anyway, if you guys have any questions, comments, or issues that you are interested in, you can let me know. Quickly scanning to see if there's any more any more headlines.
Rosalind headed my store to her Facebook page.
Oh, good.
Hey, Rosalind. I don't know if she's on.
I don't know if Rodlin is on, but thank you for adding Tony's store to your Facebook page. That's awesome. We need like some time to do some marketing, and we will do that. Tony just opened up an online shop to help his mom and also some local artists in the old city, and there's some really good items there. Okay, anyway, there's a lot of headlines, so I'm just not going to read them now. So all right, well, thank you for joining. This was great as usual to have you all here and to be able to discuss the latest issues, of which you can see there are many, not just the war. In any case, I'm gonna get going. Thank you for joining, and check back. There might be. Well, wait. Callie's got a comment, so I guess we'll find out tomorrow if it's a deal or not a deal, or both a deal and not a deal, and tomorrow and not tomorrow. Because why tomorrow? If it could be now, or if it could be the day after. Yeah. Anyway, I'm sure he'll wait till after the holiday. By the way, which holiday you pick? This holiday, that holiday. Awesome, Kim. You are welcome. Thanks for joining. It was great to hang out. I hope we get to hang out is it October that you're supposed to come, or September or August? I mean, who knows? I have a friend whose flight was canceled for yesterday, and she was supposed to be here. Susan was supposed to be here.
Oh.
But obviously not. But she said there's a conference in June that she can come to, and if things are open by then. And I was like, I'm not predicting. And Becky, thank you very much. Thank you for being here. This is awesome. Okay, Kim in October. I mean, it should be good by then, but there could be, gives it time for like on and off, kind of like a Trump deal or not deal. So anyway, all right, guys. Thanks again. And